This is the ITV News at 10 with Julie Etchingham and Mark Austin.
The first day of the state visit has been largely ceremonial. Tomorrow it's down to business, with President Obama and David Cameron grappling with the thorny issues of the economy, Libya and Afghanistan. Also on the programme, inside the ash cloud.
The volcano's power is diminishing now, but it's still pumping an unimaginable amount of these tiny dust particles into the atmosphere.
Another day of flight chaos here, but it may soon be over.
Paying the price for police officers who failed to protect this woman and her disabled daughter face misconduct charges.
And Ryan Giggs braving the cameras tonight with a little help from his friends.
Good evening. In a setting gilded with history, President Obama spoke tonight about the past, present and future of the alliance between the United States and the United Kingdom. In his banquet speech at Buckingham Palace, the President talked of wanting to reaffirm enduring bonds. But he also said it was a relationship that never rests, and he paid tribute to the extraordinary service of the Queen to Britain and to the world. Our Washington correspondent Robert Moore, who is following the President's visit, reports on a special night for the special relationship.
If you can win lasting friendship with pageantry and the formality of a white tie state dinner, then the Queen appears tonight to have won over Barack and Michelle Obama. The banquet is the glittering event that is the highlight of any visit, and in the exchange of toasts, the Anglo-American relationship was praised for its depth and its role in world affairs.
Today, the United States remains our most important ally, and our two nations contribute to the security and prosperity of our peoples and of the world through shared national interests. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to celebrate the tried, tested, and yes, special relationship between our two countries.
You have been our closest partner in the struggle to protect our people from terrorism attacks and violent extremism around the world, despite very heavy sacrifices. And allow me to pay tribute to the contributions of your military forces, which have stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades.
The official trip began this morning with the careful choreography you would expect. For this is the 101st time the Queen has hosted a state visit, if only the second for an American president. Mr. Obama inspected the Guard of Honor in the gardens of Buckingham Palace, while London echoed to the 41-gun salute. Michelle Obama and the Prince of Wales were, to put it politely, challenged by the high winds. And even the Queen was left clutching her hat. Fresh back from their honeymoon, Kate and William, now the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, met the Obamas inside. Photographs that will play well back in the United States, where the royal wedding was watched with fascination. A little later, the President went to Westminster Abbey to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. For a commander-in-chief who has 100,000 troops fighting in Afghanistan, this was a moment to reflect on young lives lost. If anyone should remember the last 3 years, you would imagine it would be President Obama, but apparently not. While writing in the visitor's book, he first struggled to remember the date, and then wrote the year as 2008. Tonight at the state banquet, the President chose to finish his toast with a little Shakespeare, even if the band struck up the national anthem too early.
To this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, to the Queen.
Tomorrow, the pace of the trip will quicken. International politics and hard diplomacy will take centre stage.
Robert joins me now from Buckingham Palace. So, Robert, any evidence of a change in our relationship with America tonight?
Well, clearly the President enjoying a wonderful evening inside the palace, but I think he's less impressed with the pageantry than he is with the heavy lifting that Britain is doing in Libya with its military contribution in Afghanistan. But I think there is also something more intangible, a genuine warmth that is building between the Obamas and the royal family. You know, 2 years ago, the president's little girls, Sasha and Malia, were here, and the Queen spontaneously lent them a royal carriage so they could enjoy a ride in the gardens of Buckingham Palace. It was a very sort of small human touch, but I think it does speak to a genuine friendship, a genuine warmth that is building here with the normally very pragmatic Obama White House.
OK, Robert, thank you.
Well, Prime Minister and President took tea together at number 10 today, but tomorrow they will get down to some tougher talking. There may be differences over Libya, but they're expected to launch a US-UK Security Council to share intelligence. Our political editor Tom Bradby looks at what might be on the agenda.
The goodwill is obvious enough, but when the glad-handing and the kissing is done, what does this visit actually mean? Or, to put it another way, what hard business will be concluded?
Ministers and service chiefs conferred with Mr. Churchill.
One of the driving forces of this relationship has always been the business of sharing intelligence. This grew out, of course, of the Second World War and the obvious and urgent need for absolute trust and cooperation. It was underscored and developed during the long years of the Cold War. The truth is that for 60 years now, certainly, we have perceived common enemies, and we still do. So one product of this trip has been a new body to improve that cooperation still further.
I think they'll find that the way we analyse and judge what's going on internationally adds something to the American view, which has in the past tended to be very American. To bring the Brits in automatically in this way, I hope will be useful to them because we see things in a different way, but we can add a depth to what they're observing globally.
So on Islamic extremism, say they'll be on the same page, but there will be tricky areas. The Americans have pushed hard for more involvement in Afghanistan, but won't themselves go further on Libya.
It wasn't so long ago that Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, or former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, was going around knocking at European leaders' doors saying, please, can you lift your national caveats and contribute more to the operation in Afghanistan? So I think that in one way, this is what Washington was doing, and it's completely reversed its policy with regard to Libya. So it's a bit of a tense situation if Cameron says, you know, please, can you help us? And Obama says, actually, no, we can't.
They will, of course, talk about the economy. Mr. Cameron would like Mr. Obama to endorse his strategy on deficit cutting. But as always, both sides have something to gain.
The fact is that this president needs to continue to be able to engage in the Arab Spring, in North Africa, in places of military conflict, and he cannot do so unilaterally.
There will be plenty to talk about. Most big world developments of the last 60 years have tended to remind most British and American policymakers they have more in common with each other than anyone else.
And Tom's in Downing Street tonight. Tom, what will David Cameron be looking for and hoping for from President Obama tomorrow?
Well, I think the first big issue they're going to have to turn to is Libya. That essentially is the trickiest thing that faces David Cameron at the moment. All the mood music we're getting from the government and certainly from the French is that the possibility of stepping up activity there, certainly perhaps in the form of ground attack helicopters. I think, you know, as you just heard in my report there, Mr. Obama was very keen to get more European involvement in Afghanistan, particularly more British involvement. We helped him out on that. He is very reluctant in Libya. He's seeking re-election sooner than Mr. Cameron, doesn't want to get involved any further. But I think Mr. Cameron will want his support. He certainly won't want to feel that he and the French are going alone. So I think that's potentially the trickiest area. Some interesting talk on Afghanistan in terms of exactly the pace of removing troops, and I think there will be quite a discussion on the economy. Of course, Mr. Cameron would love Mr. Obama to get up at the press conference tomorrow and at least be seen to, you know, partially endorse his deficit-cutting strategy. Whether he does so remains to be seen.
All right, Tom, thank you very much indeed.
Well, as Tom was mentioning there, it'll be after those talks tomorrow that Britain is to confirm it's sending Apache helicopters to Libya to take over where American gunships left off after they were pulled out in March. The Apaches can fly low and can attack hard-to-find targets in more risky missions. And today, the idea of attacking such targets was described in Parliament as mission creep. Our senior political correspondent, Chris Shipp, reports.
Deploying to Libya, the Army's Apache attack helicopter would be a significant escalation of Britain's military commitment there. But it appears NATO commanders have now concluded this campaign cannot progress with the use of fast jets alone. After leaks last night about the deployment of helicopters, along with the French, defence ministers were summoned to explain the position in the Commons, where many MPs expressed alarm at the new plans.
This decision, if it is made, does make a qualitative difference to the strategy, because it will mean a greater risk to British service personnel.
Whether or not we deploy attack helicopters, the fact that a key NATO ally has represents, in my view at least, a significant escalation in this conflict.
ITV News understands the government will tomorrow confirm several Apaches are to join the mission. 3 are currently based on board HMS Ocean in the Mediterranean. Others will be sent shortly to help attack Gaddafi regime targets in the city of Misrata. Today, ministers insisted, though, none of it had yet been signed off.
No decision has been taken. No decision has been taken by the National Security Council. No recommendation is awaiting the Prime Minister's approval. It is an option which we are considering.
But a much more risky option, ministers were warned today.
They have to inherently get within reach of opposing ground defences, and therefore they're going to have a risk of being shot down. And I think the more actively they campaign, the more likely they are to be shot down.
There have been around 8,000 sorties over Libya since this campaign began, but defence chiefs here are now looking for ways to decisively turn this mission in their favour. One of those ways they will confirm later today will be the deployment of British helicopters. Chris Shipp, ITV News at the Ministry of Defence.
To the frustration of thousands of air passengers, Scotland was virtually cut off from the air today by the volcanic ash cloud from Iceland. Hundreds of flights in and out were cancelled, but this evening both the Transport Secretary, Philip Hammond, and the Met Office said disruption tomorrow was looking much less likely. As our science editor Lawrence McGinty explains, the cloud is thinning.
It's been a day of here we go again. With dozens of flights cancelled at Scottish airports, passengers were left waiting for flights that never took off. A reminder of the chaos that struck last year.
We were caught last year too with the ash. Certainly we got away, but we were caught with the ash last year, so it's déjà vu, déjà vu.
The Met Office forecast for midnight tonight shows the red zone, effectively a no-fly zone, still over Scotland. But by 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, the red zone will have cleared the east coast. And by noon tomorrow, Britain will be almost entirely clear of volcanic ash.
The regime will be very different from one day to the next. And so we've got ash over parts of the UK today. The next couple of days are much less risk. And then if the volcano continues to erupt, we're concerned that there may be an increased risk as we go towards the weekend.
But the Met Office's forecast came in for vitriolic criticism after Ryanair flew a test flight over Scotland and said the red zone is a myth.
What we found this morning, there's no ash. So can we please open the skies over Glasgow? Can the incompetent bureaucrats in the CA stop interfering in the way the airlines and the aircraft manufacturers manage safety in the airline industry, and stop disrupting the travel plans of thousands of passengers?
The Met Office says at altitudes up to 20,000 feet, there certainly was ash and a red zone over Scotland. But Ryanair's flight was at 41,000 feet, where the only ash is over Greenland.
Michael O'Leary does a good game of going on the television and shouting the odds. Our job is to ensure the safety of the travelling public and UK aviation. My information, based on the radar tracking of that Ryanair aircraft, actually shows that it did not fly through the red zone at any time.
So a day of disappointments, especially for this little girl whose flight from Newcastle to Portugal to visit relatives never took off.
Well, in Iceland itself, it isn't just air travel that's been affected. The ash cloud is making life almost unbearable for the people and animals living near the erupting volcano, as our Europe correspondent Martin Geisler has seen for himself.
This was midday in the land of the midnight sun. Driving and living here has become almost impossible. Grímsvötn, Iceland's most active volcano, has been pumping plumes of ash into the atmosphere for 4 days now. The cloud blocking European airspace and coating the countryside with a thick layer of lava dust.
The volcano's power is diminishing now, but it's still pumping an unimaginable amount of these tiny dust particles into the atmosphere. That's inconveniencing air travellers, but here it's a health hazard. These will get into your lungs and under your eyelids. This is a wild place to be.
The animals are suffering the worst. Sheep, some blinded by the ash, are huddling together for shelter. The people have been told to stay indoors. Here, this is more than an inconvenience. You know, everybody in Europe is very concerned about their aeroplane flights and so on. What do you think about that?
The people who's going to holiday or something like that, they can just be at home. I don't care about that.
You've got bigger problems.
Yeah.
We drove on across this moonscape. There are roadblocks here, but no traffic. This policeman said ours was the first car he'd seen for days. He warned us about the extraordinary winds ahead.
If you're driving a car like you're on and it goes up to 60 meters per second, it will swift you off the road.
Very dangerous environment.
Yeah, very dangerous. And the sand, if it gets this much scale, the sand will block your eyes and the road and everything. You can't see a thing.
But as quickly as the winds whipped up, they died, revealing Iceland's beauty at its best. Inconceivable that just a few miles from here a monster is causing chaos, belching ash into the atmosphere. The dusting on top of these icebergs, the only sign of what's come through and what could come back in on the wind. Martin Geisler, ITV News, Kiribati, Iceland.
So, Lawrence, some good news for passengers at least tonight, but were the lessons learned from last time round?
I think we have learnt those lessons. Remember, back then, if there was any volcanic ash around, no one flew. Aviation was paralysed. It lost nearly £2 billion. This time, there have been disruptions in Scottish airports, but the big airports in England have stayed open. If we'd have been playing by last year's rules, some of them at least would have been closed today. The new rules don't please Mr. O'Leary, but I noticed a few other airlines have been queuing up behind him to support him, and I suspect that's because they're very happy that tomorrow it looks as if it's going to be all over, at least for the time being.
OK, Lawrence, thank you.
There's lots more to come tonight, including tomorrow's front pages, plus...
Just what did Sir Alex Ferguson whisper to his press officer when asked about Ryan Giggs today?
4 police officers could end up paying the price for not doing enough to protect Fiona Pilkington and her disabled daughter from the gang who drove them to their deaths. The 4 will face misconduct charges. The Independent Police Complaints Commission said the officers had missed several opportunities to intervene. Paul Davis reports from Leicestershire.
Endlessly harassed by teenage gangs, Fiona Pilkington asked for help. When help didn't come, she decided a life of torment wasn't worth living and set fire to her car, killing herself and her 18-year-old disabled daughter, Francesca. A critical report identifies 4 police officers who failed this tragic family.
They are basic failings, which is why the failings are as serious as they are. None of this was rocket science. This is basic policing, which was not followed through.
The Pilkingtons' home in the Leicestershire village of Barwell was on this street, where youths regularly congregate late at night. Fiona Pilkington first reported antisocial behaviour in 1997. Over a decade, she reported harassment to the police 33 times. At her wits' end, she committed suicide with her daughter in 2007. An inquest into their deaths, held in 2009, criticised Leicestershire police. It's taken until now for anyone to be disciplined. It's not as though the police were unaware of the torment this family was enduring here. Over 10 years, an increasingly desperate Fiona Pilkington made 33 separate complaints to the police. Despite that, her family received no extra protection, was not registered in any way as being repeat victims, in fact was not recognised as being vulnerable until it was too late.
There were poor procedures in place at the time. There was poor coordination between the agencies, and the police officers on the ground failed to identify the issue.
I think we've been very clear. We accept that we could have dealt with these incidents better, and that's why we sit here today, and we've got 4 officers who will be facing misconduct.
Do you think it's yourself that's being targeted, or it's just...
Leicestershire police say they've learnt hard lessons and better systems are in place today to identify vulnerable families like Fiona Pilkington's. Paul Davis, ITV News, Barwell.
The Ministry of Defence says a soldier was killed yesterday in Afghanistan. He was from 1st Battalion, the Rifles. His family has been told. He was killed by a roadside bomb while on foot patrol in the Nari-Siraj district of Helmand province.
In other news, Energy Secretary Chris Huhne has been interviewed by police today over claims that he tried to avoid a speeding penalty. Mr Huhne and his ex-wife Vicky Price were questioned about allegations that he asked her to take penalty points on her licence so he didn't lose his.
Former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak will face criminal charges over the murder of protesters and corruption. Mubarak was driven from power by mass demonstrations across the country. He and both his sons will be prosecuted.
A Metropolitan Police officer will be charged in connection with the death of Ian Tomlinson at the G20 protests 2 years ago. The decision follows a verdict of unlawful killing by an inquest jury. PC Simon Harwood from Carshalton in Surrey will appear in court in a month's time, charged with manslaughter.
And George Davis, the man whose famous conviction for armed robbery in the 1970s led to a widespread protest campaign, has finally had that conviction overturned. Mr Davis, who's now 69, was originally sentenced in 1975 for a raid on the London Electricity Board in Ilford, Essex. Today, the Court of Appeal decided his conviction was unsafe.
Ryan Giggs was back on a football pitch tonight after he was revealed as the player behind the super injunction. Now his name is out in the open. It was his manager, Sir Alex Ferguson's turn to try to silence the media. Sir Alex was angry that a reporter asked him about Giggs today. So when he thought no one was listening, Sir Alex turned to his press officer and whispered that he wanted the reporter banned from the next news conference. Geraint Vincent reports.
He may be in the eye of the storm, but Ryan Giggs did at least find himself amongst friends tonight. At Gary Neville's testimonial, he lined up on the left with some of his oldest teammates, and even delivered a reminder of why he's supposed to be famous.
Scored by Rooney, made by Giggs.
A typically sharp cross for the first goal. Earlier on, his club had made clear that it didn't want to talk about the story everyone else is talking about.
We're obviously here to discuss the Champions League final. We will not be discussing any other issues.
No questions for the manager about Ryan Giggs, but then one reporter had the nerve to break the rules.
The most experienced Champions League player on the team is obviously Ryan Giggs. 4-5 for him. How important is he for the team on Saturday?
All the players are important, every one of them.
The answer was predictably bad-tempered, but then Sir Alex, thinking he was off mic, began to plot the reporter's punishment.
This place has long been Sir Alex Ferguson's personal fiefdom, and he uses a variety of techniques to control exactly what questions are asked and answered here. How Ryan Giggs must wish that his manager's power had extended across the internet and kept the secret that the High Court couldn't.
Sir Alex is apparently not the only man in Manchester out to get those who are too inquisitive about his star player. Cars belonging to photographers parked outside the Giggs family home were vandalised today. But however hard his defenders try, the name Ryan Giggs will not be remembered just for the fantastic things he could do with a football. Geraint Vincent, ITV News, Old Trafford.
On tomorrow's front pages, The Telegraph shows Kate, Duchess of Cambridge, meeting Michelle Obama, but its main headline is a claim from a former press complaints commissioner that the European human rights law is to blame for the legal shambles over injunctions. The Guardian has a slightly different photograph. Its main report is that an anti-abortion group has been appointed by the government to advise it on sexual health. And the Mail says thousands of half-term holidays are on a knife edge because it says the ash cloud could be back for the bank holiday weekend.
And finally, President Obama might have had trouble with the date, as we saw earlier, but Tuesday, the 24th of May, 2011, will be remembered forever by a group of school children in South London. It will always be the day they met the president. And as Nina Nanar reports, 2 boys will be able to boast about playing the world's most powerful politician at table tennis and winning.
His wife has a special relationship with a school in North London from a visit 2 years ago. So today the President headed to South London to develop a special relationship of his own. The pupils of the Globe Academy were given only a 30-minute warning of who the VIP visitor was to be.
Everyone was happy, but no one said anything because they were speechless, they couldn't say anything.
Turns out plenty were ready to take him on. Unbeknownst to the President and the Prime Minister, their young competitors were school table tennis champions. Do we have any medics here? The President inquired. And on the rare occasions when the visiting team did score, high fives all round. And it's not many who get to tell the most powerful man in the world that he's losing.
So they're up 5? More than 5.
They may have a special relationship as politicians, but the ping-pong partnership clearly needs more work. Nina Nanar, ITV News.
I suppose Obama versus Cameron might have been tricky.
Too dodgy. And this tonight's ITV News at 10.
The national weather is next, followed by the news from your part of the UK. But from the two of us, good night, and thank you for watching.
Good night.
Fresh outside, warm inside. The ITV National Weather, sponsored by the Cooperative. Good with food.
Hello again, a very good evening to you. It's a largely clear and dry picture across the bulk of the UK as we move through the night. And as you can see under those fairly clear skies, it's quite cool as well. These are the values for the towns and cities, but elsewhere I think it is going to be a little bit cooler than that, so expect a patchy frost. Now, as we look up to the north and northwestern parts, the respite was but a brief one because the next system's starting to make its tracks in there, and we're going to be seeing thickening clouds and rain as well. Not terribly much rain. It's still quite blustery here as well, but not nearly as windy as we've seen recently. Now, looking ahead to tomorrow, and we stay with that system up towards the northern northwestern parts, it's trying to edge south and southeastward, so I'm afraid clouding up with showery outbreaks of rain ahead of it, but the further south and southeast you go, it's clearer, warmer and drier. Good night.
The ITV National Weather, sponsored by the Cooperative. Good with food.